The title of this podcast is Kiss the Frog. This is a theme from a famous kid story tale that involves a princess kissing a frog who eventually turns into a prince. And it's a useful analogy on how I've learned to use the practice to deal with situations or people or working with people, interacting with people that I find undesirable that when I resist the situation or have some kind of angst about working or partnering with people uh, that I find undesirable, it often causes me suffering, and I'm missing the bigger picture, which is there's a lesson in those situations. There is something to be gained in terms of growth from working with or interacting with those people. So, as I mentioned in several podcasts before, that I've learned from the great Stoic phrases and teachings that the obstacle is the way. Not going around it, not avoiding it, but actually using it, going through it, uh, learning how to handle it. And so I can give you a couple examples at work. I've shared an example in which I got a new director or manager that had a completely different style. And for the longest time, and using the title of the podcast, I didn't want to kiss the frog. But once I decided to accept the situation, accept that this is my leader, this is the person that I am reporting up to, once I accepted that, once I kissed that situation, what unfolded was an opening within me to learn how to handle it. And in doing so, I learned new skills that I otherwise wouldn't have, and while trying to meet the goals and objectives that they set, whether I agree with them or disagree with them was secondary, almost unimportant. But I gained these new skills that I had to using technology as well as how to be open to a different way of accomplishing a goal. And what I found was the leader had a lot to offer in terms of growth. And while it wasn't the path that I would have chosen, the strategy, the tactic to accomplish the overall mission, it was a different way of going about it. And it was one that proved to be fruitful. And I also acquired some new skills with expanding my mindset, expanding my heart to be open to my expanding my capacity to accept others and their different styles and different ways of communicating, which benefited me. They may have not have noticed a difference. They may have been allowed to continue working exactly like they always have, which is more about delegating and being directive as opposed to partnering and being collaborative. But that's okay because I gained from that experience. So in those situations, I kissed a frog. Another analogy that I like to, or example I like to give is on the pickleball court. For a long time, I would play against people that were more skilled than me, and part of me didn't want to play against them. The reason being is because I was attached to winning or in doing better than I was on the court. But once I decide to kiss that situation and say, hey, I want to be on the court with these people, it's going to show me where my weaknesses are, where there are some deficits in my game. Once I start to do that, I went to work on improving my footwork so that I could get to the shots that they were beating me at, so I could start to read their paddle and their body language better. It made me a better person by kissing that situation. And the same can be true when I played against players that I thought that were less skilled. Like, why are they still beating me? Like, I'm the better player. Why are they beating me? And because I made it not about, I stopped making it about the different skill levels, but trying to be objective. I want to be objective. One of my friends was able to provide that objectivity that I was unable to do. And what they noticed is that I was playing this sped up game in which everyone hits the ball hard. They're called bangers who have really one shot, which is to hit it hard. And it was effective because they were beating me at it. But my friend noticed that I was being stuck in a transition zone. So I'm not all the way at the baseline and I'm not at the kitchen line where I'm the most effective, where you really have to have skill to be at that line. You got to have more than one shot up there. I was in this no man's land, and they were just eating me alive in that land. And so what I had to do was I had to accept that that's where I was getting beat. So I spent the last few weeks dedicating myself to learning how to reset the ball when it's hit hard so that I can advance and get closer and closer to the kitchen line. And in doing so, I've seen tables start to turn. Now, it's not about the outcome. That's all secondary, that I'm playing better, that I'm beating these players that were beating me in the transition zone because I was stuck there. That's secondary. What's primary is that I was opening myself up to feedback from an objective point of view, and I went to work on area of my game that was lacking. And that's an area that if you can improve on, just like anything in life, if you can improve on an area where you're exposed, where your weaknesses are glaring, not gloss over them, but work on those, you will find a lot of benefit. Now, it may not necessarily turn into wins, convert losses to wins, but what it will do, in my case, what it helped me do was to grow. And that's what this is all about. Being more conscious, being a little bit better than you were before. And in doing so, I'm able to extend points. My partner and I are able to have a better time and a better experience. So I encourage you, if there are situations out there that you're resisting, whether they or people, uh, and that's the reality that's showing up in front of you, consider kissing that frog.